Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far, and arguably the best player in the world right now has decided to speak up where other players may not be willing to, calling out the game big time Scrappy did last night, somewhat concerned potentially as well that a fine might be coming his way, deleting the tweet after the fact, but effectively saying the state of the game right now is straight up embarrassing and the pros are not at all happy about the way things stand going into Major 2. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. First of all, lots of challenges action last night. Pro Elite's team by the way won 3-0, they secured their spot here in the playoffs. Did want to mention though as well what was happening in Europe, right? Just because we know that the Miami Heretics are in a questionable position right now. I don't know what they're going to do with their roster going forwards. But just worthy of mention that there are other Spanish players available. Of course, they've got Real potentially on a plane. We don't really know. They're trying to get his visa sorted ASAP, it seems, to get him probably in the team, let's be honest. He was, I think, pretty decent for Ravens. Like, he wasn't great, but I think he has more potential than he showed on that Ravens team. And that's definitely been the case over the last couple of years. And when Clay looks at a rookie and says, you know what, that's a guy that I want to play with, more than likely, there's probably something to that, right? But if you are Miami Heretics, you've got those guys on your team, of course, MettalZ and JurNii and ErikBooM as it stands, and Lucky, and then of course Vikul, and you're thinking, okay, well, what are the other options out there that they could go for? Now, those are lots of the guys that were on the original Heretics team back in Black Ops 4 when they qualified for the Pro League, so it's understandable they've got that good relationship, but if they continue to slide as they have done, surely they'll look elsewhere. Now, I don't think they'll look outside of the Spanish thing. I don't think that's their plan. I don't think they're going to change their mind on that. But there are other options, right? And as we see here, this game one, I don't really know how this ended 166 to 136 on this invasion. But, you know, say what you will about that. Sucre goes 33 and 17. These are, you know, top Spanish guys that are still in Europe. Basically, Sucre, Rencourt, Super, and then Yako as well. That's the team before. Now, this series against Beans, Hixie, Bance, and Harry went all the way down to the wire. This used to be the team that Nastie was on, but of course, he's now been picked up to the Los Angeles Thieves, and actually this went all the way game 5 round 11. Beans clutched a 1v2 to end up winning the entire thing, so pretty remarkable series. But just to show, because this team war guys, you know, with Bance and the boys, are considered to be, you know, one of the best teams, if not theoretically the best team in the European region, and they went game 5 round 11 with those Spanish guys that surely should be in some degree of consideration. Now, speaking of some of these players, this was kind of strange, I thought, yesterday, with Red Reserve potentially back on the horizon here. So if you guys have been around CoD for a few years, you'll remember Red Reserve, what they were as an organization. They were kind of like a FaZe spin-off in a way, right, back in the day, and they had their own CoD team for some time. Red Reserve, you know, kind of famously, it was the European guys, you know, Rated and those boys were on that team during World War II, and then of course in Black Ops 4 as well, it was a similar story. Now, they were known to not necessarily have the greatest reputation as an organization. This is actually one of the things the C deal was meant to solve, which it hasn't really done. Okay, it has done in part, to be fair, but we know that the Ravens, for example, still owe people money, to our understanding. So the whole point was, in some ways, of the franchises that, well, at least everyone's got money, so, you know, people are going to get paid. Not necessarily the case, but probably more true than it was pre-CDL, when there were plenty of dodgy organizations about, shall we say, you know, Denial, Red Reserve, among others, that, to be fair, lots of these guys played for, right? So Red Reserve is like, all right, yeah, maybe time to run it back, basically. This will be the comeback after the hard years, bad management, no support, or whatever the case is. And Zero says, hey, what's up, fellas? Before you decide to pick up anyone, there's a large amount, around 300 grand owed to us. Let me know if you need our PayPal. And I didn't realize it was that much. I knew that Rated especially was owed a lot of money, and I thought that it was in, you know, the 10, 20, 30k ballpark, but I didn't realize it totaled up to that much across all these guys. So, you know, they were owed lots of money for various things and never got paid, and it's like, well, the organization's disappeared now, so what are you going to do? But if they want to come back, then they're using the same kind of brand name, then I don't really think they can get away with that without paying what's owed. But of course, like, the actual owners themselves are more than likely long gone and way off the scene by this point. This, though, was also pretty wild yesterday. So Accuracy tweeted out the following: fractured my pinky dunking on Lins during our Team Hoop session. So lots to say on this. First of all, Team Hoop session. That's pretty cool, I think, in general, right? That the teams are actually, well, at least Minnesota Rocker, the other teams don't really do this. They don't really try, it seems to me, to actually build a culture and chemistry outside of the game. This is the type of stuff that I think can actually really help a team in the, well, in their actual gameplay themselves by doing this type of stuff out of the game. And teams like Ravens, they don't have the chance because they don't have a facility, they play separately, so it's difficult to do. That's the case for now. That might change in the future. Hopefully, I know that Clay and those boys are trying trying to move to North Carolina, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen in the immediate term, with the facility potentially getting delayed and all these other rumors. I guess the other point is, should they be playing basketball? Okay, it's easy to say in hindsight, right? But in certain professional sports, let's say Formula 1, some of the teams will prevent their drivers from, skiing or doing other activities during the off-season that might potentially, bring them to harm. I don't know if basketball really falls into that category, but it is one of those games where finger and hand injuries are most certainly possible, and when you're playing a game that requires maximum dexterity in the fingers and hands, then maybe you might think it's not the best idea. But as I say, it's easy to say in hindsight. And to be fair, his accuracy is pinky that he's damaged here, that he's fractured, it seems, according to this X-ray that we can see here on the screen. So yeah, look, I don't really know what's going on, but of course that would be the least important finger, right, on the hand. So it would be tough if this actually affects accuracy's performance, just because he's been playing so well so far this season that if this has any impact on his play, that would be very unfortunate, especially at a time where the team clearly needs accuracy to keep slaying at this level. Otherwise, well, they're not getting too much slaying performance from the other side of the AR duo. So hopefully this works out for accuracy and can get healed up and it doesn't actually affect his play, just because it would be highly unfortunate if that's true. And maybe they will think twice about doing that in the future, or maybe they will not. But there's been so much talk over the last few days about the current state of Call of Duty, not just in the ranked play side, all the cheaters that are run into all of the time, but actually from the professional perspective, because they don't have to play hackers. Okay, if they play ranked, they play hackers, but they play against professional players in the actual proper league. But the state of the game is not in a good spot, and I do feel like this is something of an inevitability in the Call of Duty cycle. The game comes out, people are happy about it, then changes are made that sometimes are for good or for ill, and over time the players say, you know what, this game is in a pretty tough state. The problem is that this year, they made changes to try and address that difficult state at the start of the game, and arguably those changes have made the game worse. And now, they're not really delivering any changes to the game itself. So Nate's been talking about this, the players have been talking about this. Scrappy said it the other day when they beat Vegas 3-1, this game is so awful right now, he said. This tweet is still up, but last night's tweet is not still up. And other players have made the point as well that, online COD, the state of the game, there is a feeling for me, and I don't know what you guys think about this, but let's say mid-January, the better teams were pretty much always 3-0 slamming the worst teams. Like, that's how it was going in January, and the big talking point was, wow, we've got a big skill gap in this game, which I think we did, and I think to some degree we still do. Now the games are much closer. They're better to watch, to be fair, from an online perspective. The league matches were super dull, I thought, in like December, January, where the worst teams would get 3-0 waxed every time. Right about now, these league matches are pretty interesting because, the potential for results, or Vegas to take Toronto to a very close Game 4, or Minnesota to take Toronto to Game 5, whatever, like, these possibilities are there, and it does make the series, I think, more interesting to watch. But is that just because those other teams have improved? I do think that's part of it, to be honest, but I do think that the other part of it is the game is pretty unserious right now. If you guys have watched any mini-map, watching an invasion hardpoint is one, a sub-base hardpoint is most certainly another. There are weird spawns all over the place right now, and the changes that they made to the hill locations have arguably exacerbated that and made it worse. And the fact that they've put new hills in and haven't really changed the spawn system means there's weird stuff happening all of the time. And the players are really struggling to handle it and deal with it and understand exactly what's happening. Even Scrappy said the other day that he doesn't think there's one player in the game right now, one team in the game that can actually read these spawns. So the frustration has definitely been catching up to some of these guys, and I can totally understand it. So Scrappy says yesterday in a since deleted tweet, whole Activision team that made this game needs to be fired and fined immediately for what they've done here. So this tweet kind of blew up, and as I say, it was up for a few minutes before Scrap thought, you know what, might be worth getting rid of this one from the timeline. I also do wonder about the whole fining thing in general, right? Because as Scrap says, you think I'm going to get fined for this? Nobody cares about COD anymore. Look at these past 5 years. So, that I'm pretty sure ended up getting deleted as well. Now, let's be honest, right? In the early days of the CDL, people did get fines. And this was, well, Octane knows all about this, which is why he's on the thumbnail, but he got fined more money that year by the CDL than he made in prize money on the Seattle Surge. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. So that was like more than 10k in fines, I'm pretty sure, based on, or whatever it was, I don't know. I think they didn't make much money that year, Seattle Surge, let's say, in terms of prize winnings. And maybe that was 10k, but his split of that was 2k. I don't know. But Octane did get fined in the ballpark of thousands of dollars for the opinions that he made very clear during the course of that season. But that was the early days of the league when they really tried to, well, they still thought that it was going to be this super professional, proper sports league and all this. Over the last few years, that kind of perception has fallen away to some degree, and I don't really know if players get fined for this type of stuff anymore. I don't think they should, let's be honest here, right? You know, instead of preventing the players from criticizing the league and the game, how about make a good league and a good game? Like, that would probably be the better solution for all parties. But no, they decided to, let's say, discourage players from making those type of statements over the last few years, and maybe there's a contract clause still in there somewhere that makes this possible. But I don't know. Scrappy took one for the team on this one, if that is indeed the case, and even he kept this tweet up where he said to Dashy, like, please, let's just play anything that isn't COD right now, because, yeah, thinking of just play any other game than a 1v professionally, because it's not a good time. But I guess my question about this also is that if Scrappy and those guys are not having a good time playing the game, because we've seen more complaints about this from Scrap than others, and you also got to wonder that the game has changed slightly now since they won Major 1. So of course, I'm sure they were kind of loving life the way things were running into Major 1. Now they're playing on a brand new patch update with so many things different for how it was back in January. They're clearly not enjoying it as much. They're still a great team, Toronto, but if I'm another team, and I'm FaZe, New York, OpTic, whatever it is, I can't control the state of the game, and sure, maybe Scrappy is trying to put pressure on the devs, and I think that would be a good thing to do, to say, look, to the devs, to the league, like, hey, we've got so many issues that need to be fixed. Can we get a spawn update? Can we get something to improve the state of the game right now? But if I'm one of those other teams, I'm looking at this as an opportunity, because if Scrappy's a bit checked out of the game, if Toronto aren't enjoying themselves as much, that opens the door potentially to another team to really, you know, focus up and grind. Because, you know, Toronto taking scrims 100% serious in their 2-set today if they're just hating the state of the game. Possibly not. So I think it does make things really interesting actually going into Major 2. I think the door is wide open to so many teams to win this upcoming event. As I say, it's not just the spawns that Sash has been talking about. This I thought was pretty outrageous as well. Like, I mean, it just shows the state of the game when hackers against HyDra, Skyz, Snoopy, etc. are just going to drop into a Skid Row hardpoint and drop 91 frags or 57 kills. Like, I mean, what is going on at this point? It's funny how they can just get away with cheating so blatantly that it literally doesn't matter that they're dropping 91 kills on pro players here on a Skid Row hardpoint and putting them in the 25-point club, because they're not going to get banned for it. It's just like, what are you meant to do at this point? They're not even trying to hide the cheats anymore. It's like, oh, well, no, I wasn't hacking, and maybe they've got the wall hacks on. They're just blatantly aimbotting, and yet that nothing is going to be done about it. So I know there's been talk from Havoc and from Clay and from others bringing back BPL, because of course that's where they played 8s really at the start of the season. Since ranked, that's kind of died out, but I don't think it's just ranked really. I think it's just the game. The pros don't enjoy it as much anymore, and therefore many of them aren't willing to. Clay wants to get it going, you know, Parasite wants to get it going, and others want to get it going as well. And obviously Nadeshot and Scump, and like everyone was playing a lot of this back in December, early January time, but that's no longer the case. And I think part of it is that many of the players that are on this list, for example here, the AR ladder of the year, and Scrappy is number 1 here on this list as it stands. Dashy moved up, Skyz moved up. This is kind of what we have going on a breaking point at the moment. Many of these players just aren't enjoying the game, and I think it's totally understandable, but at the same time, if I'm a pro player, I'm seeing this as a bit of an opportunity to try and trick my brain into liking the game so I can maybe get a bit of a leg up on the competition. But very much intriguing your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Just one final thing to mention actually here from Brian Stats. This is the longest active streak of making it to the World Championship. I think Kremp and others, you know, made 10 in a row, whatever. And Scump, I imagine, was the same. But active streak, actually, Bance is number 1 here with 8 in a row. So I wonder if come like April time, teams will be trying to get Bance straight into their team to make them qualify for champs. But very much intrigued your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
Oh my god, dude, the Blind's got so much dope.
I get assassinated by Douglas, bro.
No way, no way.
No.
No way.
Oh
The tables have been turned.
Unmuted.
Flashy, appreciate the gift, bro.
Microphone
Oh my
activated.
god, bro.
Oh my god, look, and this is all AG's fault. This is all AG's fault.
Why is that guy thinking that?
One shot ace and D.
Yes.